This thing has been running for quite some time. As you can see, the weights are all the way down at the bottom. I adjusted the pendulum once. I need to adjust it a little bit more. It's about 2:45 here, and this shows it's about 20 minutes till the hour. So I need to adjust the pendulum a little bit more. And I found some string. I'm going to try to get the alarm going. I found this string that I had laying around my house. I bought it originally for my French Marber clock, but I still had a good portion of it laying around my house. And it might work. It seems to be grabbing everything. It's ratcheting. But I think the arm this arm here needs to be adjusted because it doesn't seem to be hitting the bell that well. Maybe you could, if I point the camera right, maybe you could see what I'm trying to do. You should be able to see that swinging back and forth. It might be the fact that I just dropped something in my floor from this bell. Let me look for it. They had this spacer on wrong. This spacer, when you try to tighten up the nut, you couldn't tighten up the nut. So there was a spacer, but originally it was on top. So I put it in between the bell and the nut, and I was able to tighten up the nut. And so now when I pull on the string, it activates. But okay, good. Now, with this arm that drops into the slot, with it on top of this wood, the bell won't function. I need to put some weights on this thing and go from there. Now the weight that you ratchet has to be lighter than the weight that actually makes the bell go off. Let's see if I can break this clock. So I found a 200-gram pine cone weight for that weight, and then I got a 375-gram weight on the weight that actually makes it go off. Of course, I didn't time my string that well. A lot of times the counterweight is a heavy-duty washer, so that's what I'm going to look for versus using a pine cone. So for the counterweight, I found a heavy washer that's about 32 grams, and for the weight itself, I have a 200-gram weight on it. And when I rotate the dial to where the wire that prevents it from striking, prevents the alarm from going off, falls into the slot, we have an alarm. I'm sure the reason why it quit because the way I got this position on this clock. I have a bind in the clock because I don't want the thing to fall off my desk, but when I rotate it, well, right now the weight's on the floor. So I'm happy with that. Would it wake you up? Depends on how hard you sleep. It might not wake me up. When I finally fall asleep, I slept through a tornado. So it probably wouldn't wake me up. But it might wake other people up. And in the process, I just noticed one of my side doors broke, so I'm going to have to glue that back on. Here, I thought I was getting close to being done with this clock. And can I live with the yellow colored rope? Well, it's going to be inside the case of the clock. And how long do I want the rope? You know, the clock is 81.5 inches tall. I'm going to make the rope a little bit longer, but it don't need to be that long. It don't need to be 80 inches long. I might make it a little bit longer than that. And to strengthen this door up, you can't add wood up here or down here or in this area, but you can add a piece of wood in this area right here, this area right here, and this area right here. So I think what I'm going to do is glue this up, but add a popsicle stick tongue depressor that my friend gave me. to this area here, and I do a little bit of overkill. So this area here, but you can't go too far in, or the popsicle stick will hit these levers. And because I want the initial things to harden really fast so it doesn't move on me while the Tibon original glue sets, using super glue and baking soda, I was able to, I put Tibon underneath these tongue depressors, alright? But using super glue and baking soda, I was able to get the initial thing to set, and that's all you have to do. It dries immediately, and it allows your work to set where you want it as the normal glue dries. I will have to build in the rest of it. But I want to see whether these popsicle sticks are going to clear, which they do. So now I'm just going to let this stuff dry, and then I could take something and scrape off the extra super glue and baking soda. This stuff works great. You know, a lot of people, even to this day, ask me, what do I do? Well, this is what I do. And let me find a furniture marker. If I could find one. I need to tidy up again. I'm looking for things. Stuff got out of array. I don't know where they are off the top of my head, but you could take furniture markers and color in that super glue with baking soda, and using the 6-foot rule, 3-foot rule, whatever, nobody's ever gonna know the difference. Hopefully you can see this. Like I said, this metal arm is bent, so it rests on top of this wood cylinder. And when you rotate the alarm, when that metal arm falls into the slot, it works as it's supposed to. Now, the string that I use, it works, it fits, it does its function, but I don't know what it's going to do over time. It might fray it and break it, and I might have to replace the string. I don't know. What I think what's going to happen is I'm never going to use the alarm. You know, you'd have to wind it up every day, twice a day, because this will go off twice a day. And so I don't think I'll ever wind up the alarm. I just want to make sure it works. And it does work. Sounds pretty cool. Let me wind it up one last time and show it to you again. You know, with the weights of those chains, currently the rope is getting wrapped around the chains and everything, but with the weights of the chains, when everything is connected, it should be better. But again, this wire is bent till it goes into that notch on that wheel. It's fixing to activate. Just like the post alarm clock or any other clock, it's going to continue to ring until you do this number. Let me wind it up again and show you what you have to do to shut it off. Rotate the dial, and then it'll shut off until it reaches that time frame that you rotated the dial to. Waiting for my parts to dry, and then I'm going to put this movement in the case. And so while the door is drying, in the meantime, I took the lock off the case, and I want to explore this to try to get it going. The parts don't seem to be moving, so I'm going to squirt some WD-40 in it. I want to take these screws out, but they've been in for an extremely long time, and so far I haven't been able to get them out. So first thing is I'm going to take some WD-40 to it, and if I take it apart, I can use some mothers and clean it up and get it looking halfway presentable again. And there's a few things about this case that doesn't make sense to me. The chains go in this hole right here, alright? And there's two little holes right here for the rope for the alarm system. Why this whole cutout section is here, I'm not for sure. Maybe it was a way to adjust the pendulum to get it in beat. But what makes no sense to me whatsoever is this movement is not secured in this case. And so, in other words, once you put the dial on, and granted, once the clock is put in place, it should never be moved. However, people move their clocks all the time. And if you were to move this clock without that movement being secured in that case, It's going to come forward, it's going to hit the glass, probably break the glass, break the dial. So when it's all said and done with, that thing is going to be secured in that case. You know, it's going to sit about right here. So I'm sure that I could drill a couple holes in the bottom, and most clocks have, grandfather clocks have got bent over bolts that fit in the seatboard, and that way when you put the clock in position, and I might do that with this clock, but the dial is going to be in the way. And so it has to be something that you can easily access. I might just drill a couple holes in the side here and put bolts up through the bottom that are bent over like this on each side of the case. That way when you tighten down the nuts, it secures the movement into the case. And it needs to be secured into the case. It makes no sense why it's not. Hopefully you can see this. I'll go to the other side, you might see it better. This is grandfather clock movement. And you have these thumb screws that go up through this hole that attach this post right here. Is threaded, so you tighten up those thumb screws to secure the movement into the case. That's for a newer clock. The older clocks, like I said, they're bent over bolts. It's my Benjamin Gray antique grandfather clock. You can see that post right here. There's a bolt that's bent over, and that bolt's got nuts underneath the seatboard, and there's a bolt here, and then there's a bolt caddy corner to the other side, and that's how that movement stays in place. Years ago, and I mentioned this other videos, once the grandfather clock is set in place and it's ticking away, they would nail it to the wall. And so you'll find a lot of these grandfather clock cases that have got nail holes in the wall. See that hole right there? That's from them nailing that case to the wall. And then the hood comes off. You take the weights off, you undo those bolts that hold the movement in, and then you could take the movement out and work on it, service it or whatever, and then drop it back down into the case. Most clock repair people, professional clock repair people, when they come out to your house, you call them to service the grandfather clock, they're going to take the movement out and they're going to work on the movement. They don't want to take this entire case back to their shop. Their shop is limited on space. So if they don't have to take the case, they're going to leave it at your house. And so, anyway, with the antique clocks, I imagine because it costs quite a bit of money to have somebody come out to your house and service it. You know, way back then they were on a horse, and so they would, once they got the clock set up, they nailed it to the wall. Well, the good news is, after allowing it to soak in WD-40 for a while, you can manually get the lock to come out. The bad news is, I don't have a key that fits it. The one that my friend gave me, this very end piece is too wide, so it doesn't go underneath the cover. And all these, there's only one that fits over the shaft. I believe it's this one. And this piece is too short. This one's broken, and it doesn't fit in there, but I think I could drill it out and maybe get it to fit in there. This one almost goes on, but it doesn't go on. You know, I could make these holes bigger, but I don't know whether this part will actually make the lock undo, and I can't get these screws off. If I could get these screws off, then I could figure it out, but I can't get those screws off. But at least it opens now. If I can only find a key for it. So I took the broken key and I drilled it out. Now it fits on there. And when you turn it just right, you see that it's moving the catch, but it's not quite, I don't think the shank is quite long enough to move it. All the way. So this key isn't going to work, bottom line. So I went to my local hardware store and I bought this all-thread bolt, cut it in half, and I spent 75 cents on the bolt and 30 cents for each wing nut. Cut it in half, bent it over. So now I need to drill holes into the seat board, that's what this is, and that way the bend of the bolt grabs the movement. And I want to do it in a either caddy corner, but you have to understand that I have to be able to put this on when the shield is on. So I want to be able to, it needs to be pretty close to the movement. So there, I have it installed. I don't have the wing nuts on yet. I want to cut some of this off. I don't need that much. And so that will hold the movement in place. And that way, if you tilt the clock for cleaning or whatever, your movement doesn't fall forward. And I still have to run the string through those holes for the alarm. And so I gotta take the movement back out to do all that. So these little pegs are supposed to stick through the back door, and then you put pins through the pegs, that way the back door stays secured. Well, these pegs have broken off over time, so I'm gonna try to pull them out and put new pegs in them, and then drill a micro hole in the peg. That way I could stick a pin through the peg, so it secures the back door. So after touching them up with some furniture scratch markers, they look like they belong to the clock. So now, when you put the back door on, now I just have to make a wire to put in the holes that I drilled. So now the back door is secured. The bottom section just takes a screw. So I put a screw in. So now I have to put the side doors on, and then the shield. And if you need a movement higher up in the air, or a clock higher up in the air while you're working on it, use a box. But you have to put a board on top of the box, or the box will collapse. Of course, if you put a lot of pressure on that box, it's going to collapse. But this gives me eye level where I need to see to put these pins that hold this shield onto this case. Boxes are readily available. You know, it would be nice if you got the space to go ahead and build a wooden platform and maybe make adjustable legs on it. But in a pinch, use a box. Just like all my other Black Forest clocks, I don't trust the way they originally made how you put this shield onto the movement. Once the shield is up close to the movement, you have to put a nail through this piece here and hit that hole, those holes that are in here. This thing's 150 plus years old. Most of them are cracked. I've got another clock that I glued because they crack right down the middle, because they are, I was told that they didn't make them warped this way. I don't know about that, but I do know that I don't want to break it. So just like all my other clocks, I pre-drilled just a starter hole to put these eye bolts in. And then I will attach either a screw to the movement or a hook that goes in the eye bolts. I haven't decided yet. Here I've got the eyelets going into the shield. I got pre-drilled holes going into this case. I got screws that prevent the shield from coming off the case. I know I'm going to have people complain about this, and I'm going to explain why I do this. It's the NAWCC webpage. and I will leave it in the link of this video. They're talking about a black Sorel work clock, and that basically means a buzzer clock. The way they're designed, they have a wheel in them with a big governor fan. Hopefully you can see that. This fan right here. They're also called a Sonora clock, because the way they, from my understanding, from the way they strike. But I'll let you read it. I'm not going to go into it. But anyway, this guy's clock is a wooden base, wooden dial clock. All right? This is that clock. It's got the same setup, you know, with that dial. It's got two gongs on it. I don't know if you can see that, but there's two gongs, and they're supposed to sound like bees buzzing when the thing goes off. It doesn't sound that way to me. Mine don't have the big ply that this one, you know, like the one I showed you. It's got a big fly, it's in the back, but it's supposed to sound like bees. Now let me show you something. You see these hooks? These hooks would go into a board, just like on the black shield clock that I'm working on, into holes, into the board. This is that original board. You see how flimsy it is? And the shield would go on, and then the I think they might have glued it on. Okay, and then those hooks would go into this flimsy 150 plus year old board. Well, I don't trust this board. You see this? This is a porcelain base, porcelain dial shield clock. Extremely rare. I have somebody that wants to buy this thing off of me, but he hasn't offered me enough money. I was told by a really good clock friend of mine that in working condition, these things can go $1,500 and up. Now granted, my shield, my dial, has got a few hairline cracks in it. Plus the dials are supposed to have copper wire that go into these holes, and you bend them over. You would solder that copper wire to this porcelain dial, and that way that holds that porcelain dial onto this porcelain shield. Well, mine are broken, and I don't want to spend the money to have that repaired. So I have fishing line, and you know, from a distance you cannot tell that I got fishing line on this thing. I got these sticky tabs, and I put the opposite on the shield, and when I put it together, which is a pain in the butt to put together, and then I got the same setup. I got eye hooks. However, this board that I got is too thick. After I put everything on, the minute and hour tube don't stick through the hole far enough. So I've got a thinner board, but it's more sturdier than this 150-year-old plus board. So they should have designed, in my personal opinion, they should have designed this in a better way. That way you're not relying on that flimsy board. Because how do you pick up a clock? This is how I pick up a clock. I grab the clock by the face and I pick it up. If you pick up this Sorel clock, or however way you pronounce it, this buzzer clock by the face with that flimsy board, well, guess what? Your movement, it just hit the floor because it wasn't designed good enough. So that is why I modify my clocks, because I want them to last. I don't want stuff falling off, and that's why it takes me a while. I've been working on this thing for like 3 years. Because I got ADHD and because I've got all these other clock projects that I'm working on, and that is just in this room. You know, I put stuff on the back burner, but in the process, I'm constantly thinking about what I want to do to satisfy myself. So, for those people who got a problem with me putting eyelets in the shield and doing what I did, the screws and the movement, you know, so be it. You know, I don't care whether you got a problem or not. I'm going to work on my clocks the way I want to work on them, and that's just the way it's going to be. Now, these side doors are A, to keep dust out, but B, you could take them off to make sure that the parts are lined up. And I had to make sure that after I put the alarm system on, that the wire is actually on the wood, and it is. So now it's time to put this clock back into the case. So here it is, up and running. I will say this about this clock: they should have had a removable hood, or they should have had doors in the sides. Because the little catch that I made, you can't see it. I would have to take the back panel off, and so the movement is there, but it's not secure like I'd like it for it to be. And I couldn't get the lock fixed because I don't have a key for it. It's got a good chime to it. I'm really happy with this clock. And it's about 12 minutes past 7 here. I did a little coloring on a couple of these, and the more I mess with the dial, the more it kind of feels like drywall, acts like drywall. I don't think it is. I just think it's paint. But it's a beautiful clock. I had the alarm system working out of the case, and the movement has to be in there just right. With the movement in, I'm going to have to put a heavier weight on the alarm. I think it's binding on the wood, the string. But anyway, this clock is done. Tell me what y'all think. And may God bless each and every one of you.